Hello and welcome to this week's episode of The Giant Pod with me, Andy Wrintmore. My guest this week is musician, comedian, actress and all-rounder talent Jordan Gray. Had a really, really great freewheeling chat. We talked about anything and everything, basically. Heavy metal. We talked about being in bands. We talked about the her transition from male to female, subsequently becoming the first transgender contestant on The Voice UK. We talk about her mentor on The Voice, Paloma Faith, and their relationship. We talk about the transition after that from music into comedy and how you're going on the same stages physically, but what you're doing mentally, emotionally, philosophically is kind of different, and we sort of investigate that a little bit. We talk about her Comedy Central series Transaction. We talk about acting and all kinds of things. It's really, really great chat. Really, really, really enjoyed it. I think you guys are going to love it. There's a cheeky Essex accent in here all the way through, and we do love an Essex accent here at the Giant Pod. Yeah, this is great. This is Jordan Gray on the Giant Pod. Hope you guys enjoy it. Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks very much. So I tried my best to do as much research as I can on you, just so that, because part of the pod is that, you know, I have to be curious and I have to be able to ask questions. And I've done interviews before where I'm asking questions and I know what the bloody answer is to every question. And there's an art to that, because you can steer them in the way that they want to be steered to get the information over, and you can steer them towards expanding on an answer that you heard them give elsewhere or whatever. Yeah. But with this, that was more of a radio-y thing, so it had to be like really punchy and precise. But with this is way more sort of conversational. So basically what I do is I just watch a lot of YouTube videos, and I was trying to find a lot of your stand-up stuff, because that's some of the stuff I'm most interested in. I couldn't find a lot of stand-up stuff. Is there? Do you sort of like keep it off of YouTube, or?
Not for any specific reason. There's not a lot on there, but there's a lot floating about. But it's more used. I use it for like show reel type stuff for TV. I'll happily send you some if you're interested. But a lot of it, I get nude about halfway through, so it's not YouTube friendly. It's usually me on the piano, nude, just jumping about like an idiot. Right. And that will maybe happen sometimes 1.5 minutes in. So it's not even worth having that first 1.5 minutes on YouTube. Right. They're not all like that, obviously. But yeah, I'll get some more up soon. I've started doing more TV and less live, which is a shame, because live is my jam. Right. I love the live stuff. Yeah,
I did see some of the... I just watched episode 1 of the... Is the show called Tall Dark Friend?
Oh, so that's a little pilot we made, yeah. The show, my stage name was Tall Dark Friend for 10 years when I did music. Yeah. And then we just did a comedy pilot, and someone said, call it that, because it's like full circle. Right. And then out of that, we got the Comedy Central show, Transaction. Right. Which is, it's similar, but we work in a supermarket instead of comedians in a pub.
I did see some bits of that. And yeah, I've like I said, I've tried to do some of my research, but... I'm a town councillor where I'm from, and I'm also the deputy mayor of the town. And I've had quite a lot of deputy mayory council things, like lots of phone calls recently. And I've been trying to research, and I've also been I've been sort of torn between two big responsibilities. So
what tier are you in?
We are a town council, so we're the. As a Tory once said to me when I was out leafleting, he said, "Oh, the lower tier." I was like, "All right, mate, fuck off." So it's no one's dying as a result of our decisions, but this is still important.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So yeah, I was just trying to watch your YouTube channel, and like someone was ringing me and stuff. But yeah, so how do we start this? Because I try and get a sort of like a biographical feeling. So where does it begin for you?
Okay,
in the womb, obviously.
That was precursor to my existence was conception, and I imagine that doesn't set me aside particularly from most people. I come out as a boy out of the womb, and then I've done school was all right. Then 10 years of music, really great. Really had a great, lovely time. That culminated in some reality TV, did the voice, and a really like a couple of really stupid reality TV shows. And then I transitioned before the voice into a lady. Done the voice. That was all right. I had a boob job on TV. And then I decided, I brought out a single and it was rubbish. And then I decided to move into comedy because it was really expensive. It doesn't sound bad. It just sounds really boring, the single. And it was really expensive. I thought, I don't want to do that again. So now comedy since then, and comedy has led to TV. And now I'm a screenwriter for TV and film. So I'm very, very lucky. That's all come about in the last 6 months.
Amazing. So you're sort of like a polymath then. So you just sort of like succeed in various creative outlets to a fairly high standard, I guess.
I like that word a lot, and I always, as a kid, I wanted to be. But I imagine if I turned my hand to baking or running, I would not do very well. So there's a guy, right? There's a guy in the Tiger King. I don't know why I'm obsessed with the Tiger King, but he says when they introduce him, he goes, "I've run strip clubs, I've run bars, you name it, I've done it." And I was like, that's the same thing. That's not. Postman, like astronaut. He done none of those things. So yeah, I could do things that involve writing stuff. I think comedy and music are quite similar. To be fair, it's just one you get a quicker reaction than the other. Laughter should be happening once every sort of 7 seconds, but you only really get a reaction after 3.5 minutes of music. Like that. That's when they go, oh yeah, now we're applauding.
So you want that instant gratification.
Yeah, man.
Ain't no delayed.
That's from reality TV, because you walk in and everyone's like, "You're amazing, well done," just for looking like you. And then when that goes away, it gets very difficult. So yeah, it's also a quicker way to people's hearts, isn't it? Like you can change someone's opinion with a laugh.
Yeah.
But if I walk in and the people are not sure what they're looking at, even like get people that are not sure how they should think of me or refer to me, but then I make them laugh. They go, "Oh, fair play. I could have a pint with her, him, her, whatever. Like, don't do it near me." But like, it just wins people over a lot quicker, which is nice. Like, but music is about taste, isn't it?
It is. And do you find yourself seeking? Have you always seeked attention or, dare I say, validation in some way? Because comedians are a very interesting breed, aren't they? And it's not very often that you do get. It's very common that you get someone who is a great singer, maybe plays a great piano, or they're a great musician. Then they can also be a very good actor and write a book, let's say, and they can be really good at those three things or different elements of the entertainment industry. But to then get someone who's a really fucking ripping stand-up comedian as well, that is just so much rarer, because it's its own beast, isn't it, compared to the other things?
There's transferable skills, but you're absolutely right. There is a big divide, and I think it's to do with self-awareness. Right. Like, the more self-aware you become, like, I can't sing love songs anymore because they feel ironic jokes. Whereas before, I was bang into it. And I was like writing songs to inspire the feeling of love. Now I sing them, and I feel in my mind like, where's the punchline coming? Because that's what it's all about. And surely nobody believes all this crap, this love crap, but they do. And it's because you enter a different sphere, not a higher sphere, just a separate. And it does make you feel separate from other people. And then what that, of course, does is bring you much closer to other comedians. You feel, I was saying to Rich Wilson last night, you feel like a bunch of broken toys, but that's nice in a way. Like, we're all like interchanged parts, like the broken toys out of Toy Story. We're all just sharing each other's limbs, and that it's nice. Yeah.
And what is it like? Because I'm a musician myself.
I just listened to some of your stuff. Yeah. Awesome.
Oh, really? Oh, nice.
Very, very cool.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So it's, you know what it's like to be on a scene of musicians, to tour, to be around other bands who are also ambitious and trying to make something of what they do. And that's one vibe. And there is obviously this competitiveness. And I think in the early years, like when you're teenagers and stuff, there might even be a bit of sort of like inter-scene jealousy, I think. But I like to think as we get older, it becomes more about sort of mutual respect and admiring what the flavors that the other bands have that maybe you don't, and that's fine. But how is the musician scene different all the same to sort of groups of comedians? I imagine comedians are far more brutal.
That's the best thing I swear about comedy is the jealousy, which is a natural human instinct, is not shamed and made implicit. It's celebrated because we're like, oh, can we swear on the show?
Yeah, do what you want. Say what you want.
You just see somebody do well and you're like, fuck you for being so much better than me. But you'll say it to their face instead of internalising it. So there's no guilt and shame. It's just like roasting each other is an absolute joy.
Right.
Because I swear when you roast someone, it's saying you know them on such a deep level that you can say the worst, most cutting thing about them, and it becomes like a compliment, like because it says I know you. If you're roasting a stranger, you can only pick up on superficial stuff. But like if someone's roasting me, they go to that core of like validation and like other superficiality. I get called Russell Brand a lot, and there's like that same trajectory of like holding fame above everything else. And only my friends would dig into that, and only a comedian would, because somebody else might think it was too brutal to go that far. You don't have that with music, do you? You can have an intellectual appreciation.
Yeah.
But I learned when I've done The Voice, there's a thing in The Voice called the Battle Round. And I was paired with this amazing singer called Theo. And we done This Woman's Work by Kate Bush. It's really hard. It's really like, and he's amazing. He trills. He does the like, and I can't do any of that. It's not my thing. And I remember when we were rehearsing, we just said to each other openly, it was like, let's make this really good. Instead of competing, let's just make this incredible. Let's not hold back. Let's work on it together. And he did this incredible end to the song. He just finishes the song. And I just said to him, fuck you, you're going to win. And I was like, please keep it in because it's going to be amazing, but you're going to win. And I hate you that you're going to win. But and we made something amazing. And it's the most talked about thing of the series. And like very, very lucky. It's certainly the thing most people watch. If they saw me at all, they go, oh, you've done This Woman's Work with that amazing singer. I think, getting better through competition that's what the word means. And I remember hearing somewhere contest or competition, it's from like the Greek meaning getting better together.
Right. Yeah.
Like that.
I think competition is super healthy. And it's weird that people pick like in video games, right? You get all these memes about like, oh, the PS5 is better or whatever, the Xbox is better. And it's just a bit like, it's a bit lame. But like, I don't want that to go away because at the end of the day, you're like team games or team music or team your music scene or whatever. And the more competition, the competition drives up the quality of the things. And
Darwinism, isn't it? Yeah, like creative Darwinism. Do you find there's because obviously with metal or anything on that side, I suppose that you can draw a line at a certain point, but like alternative, that's such an old-fashioned word. There's so many like micro genres and mixed genres.
Yeah.
Do you find that it sort of does become a little bit less? You don't really have a camp for like degen music, or maybe you do for degen because people like really bang into that. But like, I don't know, mathcore people and like Christian deathcore, and like there's so many that there's not quite as much of a strong camp for it. What do you find with that? And also, what do you describe your group as? And how much has it changed over the years? Oh my God.
Yeah, and so this is the part where you end up feeling like super pretentious because
I love it. I love all the descriptions.
Because you go, and it's really Spinal Tap because you go, oh, I don't really know how to describe it, and you just feel like the biggest dick. But I don't know how to describe it. When we started, there was a trend in hardcore and hardcore punk that basically was that every band was a thrash metal band.
Well, they were like metal band.
And they were considered a hardcore band. Or every riff they do is a derivative of an Alice in Chains song, right?
Sure.
And then you go, well, this sounds nothing like Black Flag or Minor Threat or the Misfits or whatever. Yeah. And so when we started, we were like, no, we're going to bring it back to the, and this is the other thing, is it? Bring it back to the roots, man.
Yeah.
The roots, right? Rootsy hardcore. And for some reason at the time, I'm going to say it, but I'm going to sound a bit arrogant, but I'm going to say it. I think we were one of the most original things in our scene at the time, at that period of our thing. And that was weird that you could be so original doing something that was essentially 40 years old.
Yeah, but reappropriating stuff and doing it with a different attitude, I swear it does come across creatively, like, where you're coming from. We were when I was 14, I was in a grindcore band called Silent Feedback. Right, it was right. It was quite good.
That is such a 14-year-old band name.
Right, I know. I don't know what it means. I have no idea what it means. But it was all right. It weren't like, it was very technical. It was sort of Sepultura-ish. Like, I mean, that's a big claim, but it was, yeah. And I was doing like that inward, like, just there's no effort going in because you're just breathing in quietly. Yeah. But when you close that to a mic, it sounds like really
sounds great.
Yeah, I had a right good time doing that. But I didn't know what it was. And our bassist would, week on week, the description of the band would change. Like on MySpace, you'd have to describe your 3 musical things, whatever it was. And we were like, doom metal, thrash rap, like maybe psychobilly or something. I was like, what are all these things?
Yeah,
I loved it though. It's a good time.
Yeah, I like to just blanket everything like that. It's just rock and roll at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah,
because
that's nice.
It's the ethos. But then you say, oh, we're a rock and roll band. And people
hear rockabilly.
People are going to think rockabilly or Chuck Berry or something. But yeah. So where was your beginning in music then? Was there some sort of epiphany? What was do you remember a moment when you're like, you know what, this is for me. This is the one.
I won a scout badge for singing. It's the only scout badge I ever got. Also, like, it's really weird to think back of being in the scouts instead of in what's the hens. The brownies. Obviously, brownies. I didn't get to do all that. I didn't get to sell cookies or whatever.
Right. Would you have been in the brownies back then if someone said it was all right to do that?
Yeah, definitely. It's like we've done everything. Our parents got us to do horse riding. It sounds like we were really rich. We weren't even rich. Like, we just did everything for about a week. Did horse riding, like swimming, kickboxing, scouts. I would have definitely done brownies, but I've got that. I never remembered not singing, and then all through school I used to do Michael Jackson impersonations. Like in a talent show, I come out and did Billie Jean, I moved and did all that. And then the guitarist of that band, Silent Feedback, he goes, "We're starting a band. We just wondered if you want to come and do your Michael Jackson shit over the top."
That's how they all start, isn't it? Because the metal kids at school don't know any other metal kids or whatever, and then they just sort of like. You rope in people who have like half an idea of what you like, and you just try and make it a whole thing.
I then found a Linkin Park album in the library. It was the only thing I've ever taken out of the library. I rented a Linkin Park album. It's the first one.
Hybrid Theory.
Yeah, Hybrid Theory. So yeah, and I thought, I like this. I'll rap. Rapping's easy. So. We wrote these amazing, like, one of the songs, it was called the 20-minute song. It was 3 minutes long. I have no idea why it's called the 20-minute song. But it was just like, everything's changing, my head's rearranging. And I was like, this is so gritty and dark. People are really going to like feel this. And so I rapped over this grindcore music for a long time until the bassist was like, can you just listen to some like Cryptopsy or something? Just do that. So I did that. And at the same time, I started a lovely little acoustic band with my friend Ben. It was really lovely and sweet. And I was like, I'm singing again now. There's a discernible melody. And they all went to Hull to study music. Every band member of every band I was in all went. And I couldn't play an instrument.
Right.
So I didn't go. So I quickly was like, oh, shit, I should learn something. So I learned the piano. And that's it. 10 years of solo pop. Done all right. Toured Europe. Loved it. Beautiful. Like 7 albums, 6 music videos. Just crazy times. I always felt I'd do it for the rest of my life. It's weird now that I'm a comedian because then there was no plan B. Never questioned it.
Yeah, I was like that to a degree. My dad was always saying to me, like, yeah, but what's your plan B? And it's like, there is none.
Yeah.
There is none because plan A is going to work. And if I make a plan B, I'll probably do plan B. And I don't want to take plan B off the fucking table here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Where does politics creep into it for you, though? Is that like just circumstantial? How does it come about?
There was a bit of a lull in the band's productivity, and I work in a shop, and as I'm a big guy in a fairly small town, and I work in the shop in the center of the town, so you get to know people, right? And people get to know you because. They want to align with you because you're massive and you're friendly, so it just works out for them on the Darwinism scale. No, I like to have a laugh in there and stuff like that. And so I was just joking about, I know everyone. I'll just be the mayor of Frome, It was just fucking shop jokes.
That's great.
And I didn't realise that at the time I was so ignorant to local politics that we actually have an independent town council. So we had some people that got their heads together about 15 or so years ago, and they said, "Why the fuck is there party politics at a town council level? Why don't we arrange ourselves as an organised set of independent councillors and run for these seats so that we can make the decisions on a local level, and someone in a Labour or a Conservative or Lib Dem or even a Green seat or a Green party member won't have to toe the party line and won't have to so let's say there was a majority of a Conservative vote and there's a majority Conservative local council, they'd almost be reporting back to a head office in London. And so things about the town get decided by people who don't fucking live here. And a group of sort of intellectual rebels, let's say, got together and made it happen. And so for the last 15 or so years, Frome has had, every seat has been taken and won by landslide, may I add, independent councillors. They all sort of work together, but they're all fucking residents. And they all know what's best for Frome, or they try to know what's best for Frome.
So the shape of it being what it is, that's you might not have
I wouldn't
gone down that route if it had been
because I could have been brought in as myself, and you go in under this banner which has a great reputation anyway as the Independents for Frome. It's like a non-party thing, but it's a banner all the same. So anyway, I was joking about this, and I guess I was joking to members of the council, and they were seeing this sort of young guy who's sort of doing things, isn't like them, and they were like saying to me, "Hey, you should do this. Why don't you come and do this?" And I was thinking, because I'm smart enough to know when a door's open for me, and to walk through it, even though I don't know what's on the other side. But if you, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I love the Bowie interview when he says you've got to get out of your comfort zone. And he says when you're in the water and the water's just about here, he said then you're in a position to do something interesting. And that really stuck with me. Is that, well, if you make one aspect of life familiar, you need to move into another aspect and then make that familiar. And that's growth. And that's the only way I see people growing, is to continually challenge yourself. And so I thought, well, all these serious people taking me seriously about this role that I could be the mayor. And it did start as a joke, and then it just became this thing where I was like, here is an opportunity to do something completely out of left field. And also there was an aspect of like, wouldn't it be funny to have, a rock and roll mayor? Do you know what I mean? And that would kind of ruffle...
A bruised elk mayor. Yeah, right. Punk. That's great.
That would sort of ruffle a few feathers, and it would be sort of like, and it's been great. It's been a real journey. But yeah, so I don't know where the music and the politics thing really, they sort of mix, only in the fact that I'm sort of in politics, and I've sort of, quite comfortable in a van with 10 dudes in America somewhere for 2 weeks. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I missed that aspect of it. I only had a band together for the last couple of years of my solo music career. We were called Tall Dark Friends in the Corridors. And it was only because I'd already had a career in because I've only had done a lot of big reality TV. You don't have to worry about bringing people down and booking places. That's just there.
Right.
So I was like, well, we don't need to do those little tiny gigs to get better. We'll just straight away do big gigs, which is not the best way to do things, because then you've sort of not earned it, but you've also not gotten used to the small crowds. And when you are doing these big shows, it doesn't feel special. And we just put so much pressure on that every show had to be bigger than the last, and it just fizzled sort of quite quickly. Also, I decided I wanted to be a comedian, which sort of changes things very quickly. There is something strange in there about jumping from one entire life trajectory to another.
Yeah.
And it's the biggest thing I changed. And I've changed from a man to a woman, and going from a music to a comedy was by far the biggest change I've made in my life.
Right. Yeah. So that's interesting that even your sort of sense of, well, it's not your sense of self, because I guess you have a very good idea of who you are, but it's letting the world in on that, isn't it? Finally, after a period of time.
That's a nice way of saying it. Yeah, no, I've never heard somebody say it like that before. That's nice.
I want to talk about that, but I also am aware that it's at some point you're going to be like, well, this isn't all I'm about.
you know what? It's like I don't mind talking about it in the slightest. It's lovely to chat with people of elevated mindset and all that. But I would also say we've talked about music and comedy for a good amount of time. I think you've done a really really good job of like, I've only just remembered I'm transgender just now. Like, I've never spoken to somebody about alternative music for this long on a podcast. I'm enjoying it very much.
Oh, that's great. So what age do you feel that you kind of realised that something wasn't? Would you describe it as something wasn't quite right? Was there sort of an unsettled feeling in you, or were you just like, oh, I think I'm a woman actually? It's
like that miserable feeling that people get. I just assumed everyone was really miserable because, like, when you're little, you're told that everything is Disneyland. It's like everywhere that you don't live is like, we're going to go there. It's going to be amazing. We're going to go to visit the beach, and it's like this sparkly, amazing thing. I thought everywhere was amazing, and I was just really miserable. I thought everyone must feel like this, and then I got to 18, and I was like, oh no, everyone isn't miserable. I'm just sad because I'm not myself. I never felt like a girl. Just didn't feel like a boy. Felt like an alien. And then about 18, 19, because I was doing quite well with the music, I was able to play with like outfits. You can play with outfits any age. It's not a requisite of being 18. But I was like, oh, I'll put a wig on for an album cover, for like this electro album cover, and I was playing a different character. I was like, oh shit, I'm just like fulfilling my own prophecy. Like, this is not artistic. This is just who I'm supposed to be. So then it became very easy, bit by bit. I didn't do anything about it till I was 24, but it's more of a pragmatic decision. I'm not got a soul. I'm an atheist. I don't have a lady's soul trapped in a man's body. I'm just pragmatically better at being a woman. And I will continue to do so until that changes. Hopefully it won't.
Right. Oh, it's great. I mean, how was your family? It seems like you've got a pretty cool family and open to, with the things you were talking about, horse riding and all the different activities you said you do as a kid. It seems like they were quite an open and life-loving bunch.
Yeah, exactly. It was fine. Mum and dad are divorced, so that was two separate conversations. Like, it's all right. I said to my mum, I think I'm a lady now, and she was like, "Oh, what kind of woman are you going to be?" I was like, "What do you mean? What's that mean?" And I think she had in her mind, it was like you get like there's like the Spice Girls. You can pick like one of them, like vibes. And I was like, I guess I'll be sort of posh-ish. I'm not there, am I? Like, let's be honest. But I thought, well, that's who I am. I'm just going to wear like black cocktail dresses everywhere and smoke a cigarette at length. And that's the kind of woman I'm going to be. I'm so not. I probably am a bit different than I used to be, but I'm a tomboy, which probably feels like a bit of a waste of time for most people. Why did I even bother? But I wear a peak cap and jeans everywhere I go. It's not like I'm just for being in a band. I just be in any genre of band, just in this outfit.
Yeah, you could. You could be. You could be in a grindcore rap band.
Yeah, tick. I want to do rap again. I brought out one spoken word album. I'm a big fan of Scroobius Pip. Yeah. I brought out one album, and that's how I got onto his distraction piece in the first place. It was this song about being transgender in Essex, and it's really hard. And then when I was listening to it while it was on his show, I was like, oh no, this is just an impression of Scroobius Pip. And he very, very sweetly just ignored that and was like, oh, sorry, yeah, nice, really enjoyed it.
I love Scroobius Pip. My introduction to him was the video for Thou Shall Not Kill.
Yeah, man,
a very long time ago. And that whole album is incredible. That Letter from God to Man is great.
I think about that all the time. Like, I'll be shopping for something and like, thou shalt not buy Nestle products. I'm like, oh yeah, sorry, right, yeah. Thou shalt not question Stephen Fry.
Yeah, and that bit when he's like, the Beatles, just a band. And I'm like, no, give me something more. Yeah.
I used to love adding my own verses of like, because he never mentions any solo artists. So I'll be like, Michael Jackson, just a man. Johnny Cash, just a man. And I was like, in my head, I keep going.
Yeah, it's great. I recently rebought that album because I think I was a bit naughty and got it off the internet back in the day, and it was just
he wouldn't mind.
Just some horrendous quality. But I have it now. I own it. Scroobius, if you ever hear this. Nice. But he's great. I haven't really listened to an awful lot of his podcasts, but chatting to you, chatting to Whiffin. I was chatting to Susie Gage as well the other day from Stay Whiter Drugs. And just that story of how that began with those two is great. Scroobius just sounds like he's definitely got, even though he's got millions of listeners, he's definitely got his ear to the ground still.
Gosh, yeah, he's built his empire, but he doesn't act like he's in the heady heights of success. He's just he's very down to earth. But then intelligent people do tend to be, don't they? Because otherwise you just spiral. Yeah. He's a vastly intelligent man. But he's not, he don't point that out. He doesn't come around telling you, like, don't worry, I'm very clever, I'll figure this out. It's just, I think when you're that intelligent, things probably just move at a slower pace in your mind anyway. So it's quite chilled. Everything's just very laid back to him.
Yeah. So you said that your sort of spoken word thing sounded very much like Scroobius Pip. And you also mentioned that, and you referenced it in that pilot episode for the Tall Dark Friend, the Russell Brand thing. Do you find that when you admire someone's direction or what they do you find that sort of subconsciously maybe you sort of take on a piece of their vibe?
That's a great question, because it's multifaceted, isn't it? You can. I have this accent because I'm from Grays and Russell Brand's from Tilbury Town, but we have the same haircut and the same accent, and so there's a point where you're like, that's unavoidable. But yeah, of course, it's the trajectory of, if you want to be famous, don't hide it. Just talk about it all the time and make that a part of your comedy act. I like that aspect because it's like, well, we can't argue with that then. Let's just make this person famous because they want it and they're not lying about it.
Yeah.
That Russell is what do they call it? Same when James Acaster came along, people said that he was a new archetype. It wasn't like anything before, which is it's a lie. It's not a deliberate lie. It's not people are trying to hide something. It's just that everyone is made up of aspects of other people. Russell Brand was trying to be Peter Cook.
I love Peter Cook.
Yeah, man.
Derek and Clive.
Yeah. It's I love that there's that. When I was doing music, I thought of myself as like a halfway between a Michael Jackson and a Jeff Buckley. Which is a weird thing to say, I know. But also, I play piano, so it's not even either of them. But I ended up sounding like David Gray.
Love him.
Love David Gray, my uncle. But I don't mind that. When Charlie Chaplin said nothing is truly original, it's all about stealing. But that's fine. It's like you can't invent a new chord, can you? It's quite impossible at this point. And jokes are... Comedians, you're talking about stuff that everyone else is experiencing. It's how you experience it. So you didn't make up a new experience. You went through your little filter, and you can only do that by going through discomfort. You have to be misshapen by the stresses in your life, like you said. Like you got to be outside your comfort zone. Best stuff comes out of tragedy and pressure, for sure.
Yeah. It's like the cliche analogy is diamonds, isn't it? You put something under enough pressure and you get diamonds.
Absolutely. Like I swear, with comedy, you can get so tired in a writer's room or writing it. You're like, that's done now. That is a joke exists. And if you take the effort to be like, no, let's take a whole day.
Yeah.
Just with a mate, buy a pizza. Let's see if we can make this joke 10% better. Like there's no way to do it, but you're like, if we do, that's the extra magic that makes people talk about it for the rest of time. That was what makes that episode like the most quotable episode of your TV show or whatever it is. And it's that you've got to be willing to argue with somebody over it, and get uncomfortable. Yeah.
Because that 10% could be the difference between something that is memed or put on mugs and T-shirts for the next 20 years. Yeah. That 10% could make you a lot of money. Absolutely. And it could get you greenlit for the next season as well.
It could be the difference between a commission. Yeah, exactly. The whole thing.
The one I like, the expression I like is "there's nothing new under the sun," and I think there's a bit of a comfort in that as well, because you it almost absolves you of this pressure of like, oh well, there's nothing I can do which is going to be absolutely the new frontier of this particular sort of discipline of what I'm in.
Yeah,
you can just bring you to it and hope that is good enough that people like it. I guess that's part of the scary thing, isn't it? It's because you're presenting yourself. Like, I know you said you don't have a soul, you're atheist. I think I heard you say you're an anti-theist. And we should probably talk about Christopher Hitchens in a minute, because he's an absolute hero of mine. But But that is part of it, isn't it? Is you're bringing a part of yourself out, and that's there to be judged.
Well, if you're trying to, one thing that I knew I was doing wrong I didn't know at the time, but I figured I was doing wrong, is trying to retro engineer your legacy in advance. Like, you're like, oh, I'm going to go through a jazz phase in about a year. Then after that, I'm going to do the best. I want people to think, oh, that's so interesting. She did that.
Right.
Just do it. Just do what you're doing. And you're right. If you're presenting yourself, it has to be authentic and so vulnerable. If you plan that, you're like, no, I know every aspect. I want them to think this about me, and then I want other people to think, oh, but maybe that's ironic or whatever. Then none of it's real, and you're so protected.
Yeah.
I can't do that anymore.
Is that self-mythologizing?
Yes, it absolutely is. When I started writing, I bought, like everyone does, they buy it and they never read it. Joseph Campbell's Hero with 1,000 Faces, right? Because Dan Harmon of Community and Rick and Morty fame, the writer, creator of that, he talks about it a lot, the hero's journey. And I was reading this book about comparative mythology. I was like, oh, all these people are me. Like, Jesus is me. Buddha is me. I've got the same story. That's because everyone's got the same bloody story. We all start and we go through troubles and we bring things back. And if you try to hold yourself up on a pedestal, it's really hard when you're transgender, though, because everyone's doing it for you. Everyone's holding you up on a pedestal. Like, you're so brave and amazing. I'm like, maybe I am brave and amazing. Maybe everything I do is incredible just because I showed up. Like, it's really hard to not mythologize yourself when other people are talking about you a lot.
I tend to, within the band, make the most grandiose statements. So, like, we'll do a jam or something, and it's always meant with the most sort of sarcasm, and like, I don't actually believe it, but maybe I've been doing it so long that my bandmates actually think that I think it. But sometimes I'll be like, "This is a future classic, guys."
I love it.
I'll be like, this is going in the documentary, and this is the theme. I always talk about, when we're talking about this in the documentary, like the documentary, you know, like the Foo Fighters back in 4 or whatever. But that's so I kind of relate to that in a way, because although I'm not, that's your approach to that sounds slightly, it's quite neurotic, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's quite controlling and sort of not leaving anything to chance, or you're almost not letting anything come in that could catch you off guard and knock you off your perch, I guess.
Well, that was very much the vibe when I brought out the last single. It was that I stopped thinking about what I wanted to do, because I was like, that's irrelevant. It's what people want. Let's make something that what people want. And it's an electro dance track. There's nothing to it. It's not special. It's like, it's whatever it is. Thank you to the producers if you're watching. It sounds great, but nothing special. And after that, all that pretense is gone. So now I've not got that. I like the ironic thing. I talk about on stage. I'll talk about how well I'm doing. I don't think I'm doing amazing, but it's funny. It's funny that I come on stage and I'll play a little jingle and I'll be like, I'm amazing at this. Look at my fingers go on this piano, and I'm joking.
Yeah.
But I love that there's maybe one person at the back of the room like, arrogant bitch. I'm like, how could you think that somebody could walk on stage, play piano, and say they're doing good? Like, say how well they're doing. That's that level of irony. I think it weeds out the kind of fans I want to have. The people that laugh, I'm like, yeah, they get it. Anyone else, I'm like, well, I'm not going to reach you. So.
Yeah, you're in my. You get me. Yeah.
We can talk about Christopher Hitchens if you want.
Oh, go on then. I can't help myself.
Well, I to be fair, I came at this whole atheist thing through Dawkins. Man, Dawkins was a rock star to me. I've literally almost printed his face on a t-shirt.
Right.
And then they had that little Four Horsemen thing with Christopher Hitchens, Sam Harris, and Randy as well. Oh, he just died. The amazing Randy, bless him.
Oh, did he die? Oh,
he just died really recently. Unless that's a horrible hoax, as tends to happen. But no, I think that's just happened. The amazing Randy. And then I was introduced to the world of Hitchens. And nothing about Hitchens has ever tripped me up, like, as in nothing. I never disagree with very little. Yeah. But then he went on a little bit of a tirade about how women aren't funny, which you can stand back from and be like, it's probably as a soundbite sounds worse than it is if you dig into what he's actually saying.
I believe that was taken out of context.
Yeah,
slightly.
Exactly.
Yeah. To my knowledge, his he probably didn't do himself any favors with that, but to my knowledge, the thought behind that is that men have had to be funny to reproduce, because a lot of women will say, because let's face it, a lot of men aren't that great looking, right? I think women are objectively more attractive across the board.
That was my thinking. That's why I went to all this effort.
So you jumped ship. And I think basically what he's saying is that in an evolutionary sense, perhaps, I'm not an evolution expert, but perhaps women haven't had to develop humour the way that men have over the millennia or whatever to attract a mate, because it's almost like a crutch, isn't it? There's a load of guys out there that are hilarious, but they're butt ugly and they've got a decent looking girlfriend. And a lot of women will say, I like a guy that can make me laugh. That's like really, really common. So I think what he's saying there is that he's not saying women are incapable of being funny and then they're not funny. I think what he means is that we've had to practice being funny for thousands of more years than you. It's not been
to humor.
Right. Yeah. It's not been necessary for you to be funny to pass on your genes to the next sort of generation. I think that makes
it more palatable. Yeah. That's cool. That's my whole jam, to be fair, is evolutionary psychology, and that's all Dawkins' stuff, isn't it? That's his whole vibe.
Yeah.
Then I think there are definitely predispositions between men and women, which is so fascinating because men and women aren't different species. We're literally the same species. It's brain chemistry. So we've actually both got all the same circuits, but epigenetically, whatever hormone flows through you, they get switched on and off. So any living being is capable of growing up and being funny or hunting or social connection. But depending on what hormones flowing through, you get different effects. And I have experienced that in real time. I used to be so much better at finding people's cars. Like, I can't anymore. And that sounds like a joke, but it's true. My spatial awareness has diminished, but my social nuance and emotional nuance has improved. And I don't think that's a placebo. I do think that's epigenetic. And a lot of that comes from Dawkins. It's amazing. Gosh,
that is fascinating.
But we love those lads. R.I.P. Randy, and I hope. And Chris, of course.
Yeah.
Bless him. I can't believe I forgot about that. Bless him.
Have you seen some of those Dawkins YouTube compilations where he's having to suffer through interviews with sort of not very clever people?
Yeah,
and he just sits there and goes, "What? Yeah. No, of course not." It's great.
All those videos, they're so overly exaggerated in their titles. It'd be like,
I
don't know who, but Richard Dawkins destroys Christian. I'm like, he's just a nice old man. He just said, I believe, I don't think there's a Yahweh or a Thor or a whatever. It's like, yeah, and all the Jordan Peterson ones are the same as well. Yeah. Jordan Peterson destroys transgender heckler. I'm like, it's just a chat, just having a chat. One of them's not happy about it, but one of them still alive.
One of them is Jordan Peterson dismantles feminism or something.
Yeah, that's a bold claim.
And you go, Jesus Christ, I better watch this. And then you watch it and you get to the end of it and you go, no, he didn't.
Yeah, feminism.
He sort of agreed with it. Sort of.
I watched Christopher Hitchin one before, and you start to feel sorry for intellectual people like him at a certain point. You're like, he's just now. It's like
he's having fun with you now.
Yeah, we could have just got all this done in the preamble, so we knew that we weren't going to waste our time during the chat.
Yeah, he made me buy a thesaurus.
What, he told you?
No, he didn't. I wish he told me that. I wish I'd spoke to him. But
you, young man, you need to advance your
get a thesaurus if you want to talk to me again. And I literally sat there watching him, and I was like, I love this man dearly. But every other word he was saying, I had to pause it and Google it. I had to figure out how to spell it first of all, and then then Google it. And I was like, I need a thesaurus when I watch this. I mean, it's great. I don't. It's nice to be the smartest person in the room, but I think it's really important to not be in most cases.
Yeah, there's something really lovely about as you get older. I think I've become more attracted to like specialists, people that have chosen one thing and gotten really good at it. Because they're fascinating for one, but also you're like together you feel like a bit of a Justice League or like an Avengers. You're like, we each have our own thing that we do, and so getting really good at one thing is nice. There's no need to be a jack of all trades or a polymath, as you say. It'd be lovely, it'd be wonderful to be able, but I think at a core of, like, for example, everything I do, I know there's a core thing about communicating ideas. I'm good at communicating ideas, which wouldn't translate to flying a plane in the slightest. Like, there's things that doesn't translate. So there's usually just one thing you get good at in it. Yeah. What would you say is yours if you really have to dig? It's a big question. Is there a simple statement of, you're like, actually, everything I do requires me to boom, and that's the thing you realise you've been doing since you were a kid?
I don't know. I've got ADHD, so when I get into something, I go into that sort of hyper-focused thing.
Okay. Yeah.
So with me, a lot of it is like I collect things. I got really into the Grateful Dead a couple of years ago, which on paper I shouldn't fucking like, but in real life is just as close to a religious experience as it gets, really. And I spent months hunting down the 200 odd official releases, and I spent way too much money on this stuff, and I downloaded it, and I sort of labeled it all correctly, and everything proper anorak stuff.
Deadheads. Is that what they call them? Deadheads?
Deadhead. Yeah, that's right. Nice. But I don't know. It's and I go through phases of, like, one time I might be really into sort of Batman graphic novels for a bit, and I've sort of read all the big ones now, so I don't really go back to it that often. But sometimes something will spark my interest in it, or sometimes I get really into watching films. I'm like a bit of a film buff for a little bit. But the general through thread is always music. And music must decode something between my ears. It must be intercepted by my brain in a way that, but I'm not sure. It's basically, I knew that I couldn't. I do the 9 to 5, but it's never been attractive to me, and I always feel like a square peg in a round hole. So I guess it's always been anything where I feel like bringing myself to the table is going to make it successful. I think that's a podcast or music, because it's yourself, isn't it? Radio, things like that. Anything where I feel it's creative and I can sort of just rely on some element of charm to get by.
That's a nice way to go through life. Yeah. If you've got an inexhaustible supply of charm, life can be, at least 10% easier. Yeah,
at least 10% easier. So I'm really interested in that transition, but from the lives, the stage live music. As you said, how long were you doing music for?
Probably about 10 years.
10 years.
And I still do comedy music now, but it's very different, mainly because the diction has to change. With comedy, you need to get every word for a joke to work, and music you can go off on whatever. Now it's sort of very pronounced.
Right.
It is a very different experience.
So the first night, let's say you do your official comedy gig, you walk on the stage. I imagine the first few meters feel very familiar.
Yeah. The room is very familiar. That whole thing, sitting there waiting, and there's a lot of seated people sat to watch, which is different because, of course, music can be a standing room in a place like that. I just had a boob job the night before. No, one night before. So I had a night to spare, and then I had the gig, and so I was still bandaged up and everything, and I had a dressing gown on, right? And I was I don't know what, I don't take like drugs, so I don't know what they are, but I had a painkiller, a tramadol or something, like something really powerful painkiller.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah, and I thought, well, I've been wearing this dressing gown all the time since my surgery. This is now just going to be a bit of my character that I will continue for the rest of my career. I'm going to be the kooky comedian that walks on in a dressing gown. So yeah, come on! Instantly realised this is really weird because I can't sit down and play my piano. There's no safety net, and the silence is just there. I can't fill it with anything. I was very lucky it went well, and maybe that's a tramadol. But from then on, the next gig I did, I put on a dressing gown as well to go to that. I was like, consistently going to do this, and it just was really weird and didn't make any sense at all. So okay, maybe I need to have more than just a weird outfit to make it in the industry. So, as a short answer to your question, the big difference is that you don't have anything to fall back on. Because if I was playing piano and it was shit, at least something's happening. At least there's something going on. If it's a joke doesn't land, you can't feel that silence.
Right.
Like you have to just take it on the chin.
And it's the same with my drums, is that you have this barrier in front of you. There is, and I can see, because I'm massive and my drum kit isn't a big giant man drum kit.
I never thought about that. Yeah, you just like a little Warwick Davis sync. Like it's got to be at your level, isn't it? Yeah.
And my throne, right, my stool is always at the lowest setting as well. It's so weird.
Why?
I don't know.
No, because so you can be, so you're out, your legs are outside.
So the drums feel like, they're not like down there. But so I can see over it all. Yeah. I can see the crowd. I can look them in the eye. Do you know what I mean? But there is that, it's that weird, it's not even maybe it's subconscious, but you have some sort of shield, don't you?
It's your command center, like the console in the Matrix, isn't it? You're there with your screens and that's your world. Your trill, what they're called? Not trills.
Cymbals.
No, not the hardware. The musical. It's because paraddidles. Your little paraddidles. I couldn't think of the words. You and your paraddidles, you bloody drummers. Yeah. What you like?
So so I guess you did you feel a bit naked without your piano then? I guess completely.
Yeah, maybe that was a self-fulfilling prophecy, because then now I do a lot of naked comedy. Now I literally do play naked. I wonder if I wouldn't do that now if I didn't have that initial feeling of like being so, because I just leaned into the vulnerability of it. That's the best thing about being nude when you're doing a performance, is it is unquestionable. No one can be like, no one can see that and think that person's got a slight bit of hesitation or fear, and therefore you're along for the ride. Like confidence is so important when you're performing. If someone sees that you're into it, they're like, okay, I'm on the roller coaster now. This is fine. Yeah. Without the keyboard, very strange. Didn't know where to put my feet. So I used to do this weird little skip, and now I'm so animated now and I jump around and do quite a lot. And I think that is just filling the space of like, as a musician, I have the keyboard and kick my legs about like Jerry Lee Lewis. Without a keyboard, it's just a mic and me kicking my legs about like what's his name? Faulty Towers. Like I'm doing the weird walk out of Faulty Towers. I don't know why I do it. I think it's just to fill the space, because if you're a band, you've got the stage as a solo artist. How are you going to fill that unless you just commit to just standing there?
Yeah. Maybe we should talk about The Voice. So you auditioned for The Voice. I guess you auditioned, or does someone come and say, hey, you should come on The Voice?
The latter, definitely. And that's the same with most reality TV shows. So those cues that you see, I can't speak for every single reality show, but they're really more just for the story. Those shows are all about a story. It's the hero's journey from obscurity to fame. Yeah, if somebody just calls you, if you've got a lot of numbers on your website and they like your vibe, then they ask you to come in for a producer's audition. Mm-hmm. And then the next round is TV.
And you were paired with, and how was TV? Were you already so seasoned at this point that you weren't fazed by the TV cameras? Were you excited by it? What was it? Was it a new world?
Excited very much. It's like a video game. And I got this thing into my head where I would be happier now if there were cameras all the time, because then no one can do anything wrong. It's like I had my surgery filmed on camera, my boob job, and I was like, that way, that surgeon cannot fuck this up because it's on TV. It's like everyone has to treat me nice, and everyone has to be on their best behaviour. And you see people, it's a superpower, because I don't change when I'm on camera in the slightest. It's just me, but other people do. So it's like, I'm winning. Like I get to be in the world of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. It's like me not going fake when everyone else is being fake. I look like the special one. So that was a big part of it. Maybe that's really arrogant. I don't know. Other people know not everyone is like that in front of a camera.
Yeah.
But I'd done a little bit of reality TV. I did a dating show, Andy, that I didn't know was a dating show when I showed up. It was called Sing Date. You sing over a laptop and you do a duet. And I was like, I'm a singer. This will be good for my career. And then apparently, so I was a man at this point, and the lady would sing with 10 different guys and pick the one she liked the most. And then you go on a date in London. Right. I didn't know about that bit. So it turned out I was on a dating show the whole time.
What do you think that means in an evolutionary sense? Because that is such an interesting concept. Whose voice resonates the best with this particular woman, and what does that mean for the very primal way that we pick our
Gosh,
mates,
imagine,
let's say.
Yeah. Like, if that's the way we started doing things, what would we turn into? We'd just be a species of like sopranos. Amazing. I was chosen. I was the datee, and then
you
we went
won.
on date. Yeah, I won that life. Like, yeah, that is the height of my success. But on that, I think I was probably quite weird on camera. I was very brooding. Like, I wanted like to signal that I was like the cool one, and that doesn't work. You just look like a dickhead. So getting that out of the way, then yeah, when the voice came along, to answer your question, it's just a lot of fun. Very, very easy. Very, very fun.
And you got paired with Paloma, and I haven't seen a lot of The Voice or the series that you were on. I don't really tend to watch an awful lot of sort of programmed TV. But I have seen a few clips and stuff. I've heard you talking about Paloma, and that she was, I think maybe some of the judges possibly don't invest in their talent, let's say, or their team in the same way that you think Paloma does. I think that's an interesting one.
That's so very true. And it's that it was her first year, and I think maybe she was calibrating still, but she's just a nice person. She champions people. And she's good friends with Pip as well. So that was really nice. First thing she said to me, because I'd emailed to say thank you so much for putting me on your team and everything. And then I said, she said, what are you doing in your life? And I was like, well, I just did distraction pieces with Scroobius Pip. And then she came in and the cameras are rolling, and and me and the whole team are there. And she just walks up, she goes, Scroobius Pip. And the director was like, cut. And she was like, oh, sorry, we'll do that again. She's, anyway, yeah, she took it really seriously. So off camera, we went to dinner and just had a good time. And she stuck me in her last music video as well. That was really nice.
Oh, great. That's good.
Yeah, just popped up.
I saw her at Glastonbury a few years back. Was it Glastonbury? Yes, it was Glastonbury. And I've got to be honest, it was one of those ones where you go, oh, I don't know, but you're kind of stuck there and you want to see the thing after it. And this happens quite a lot, actually, is you sort of almost write something off as like a pop act or whatever. And then you sort of stand there and something happens and you go, oh my God, and it ends and you go, that was really good.
Yeah.
She was incredible. The sex appeal, the stage presence, the energy,
very cool.
The charm, everything. I was just stood there in awe of it. I didn't really know like a lot of the songs, but I was like, what I'm watching is a professional, sculpted, slick, well-oiled industry machine. Yeah. And there's a part of me that's like such a student of the game in that regard that I couldn't help but like just give it up for it. I mean, it was just great.
Yeah, that's nice to think of it like that. If it's not your vibe, but you respect the craft that's gone in from so many different people as well. It's like she's incredible, but of course everything that goes into that. Yeah, it's a weird thing with old Paloma because she's got that jazzy vibe. And if Amy Winehouse hadn't existed, or if like Duffy hadn't been a thing, she would have fit that archetype and she would have soared to universal stardom, but Amy sort of pipped her to the post there. They obviously sound different, but the pop jazz fusion thing that came back happened at that exact time. Yeah,
I feel like Duffy could have been a little bigger than she was.
Yeah.
Given that she had such such reverence, obviously, for Motown.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. It's
nice to hear. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
It's really nice to hear a metal drummer for that sentence to come out of their mouth. It's really nice. That's really lovely.
Well, I love all music. I try to be I studied music for 4 years, and when I went into it, I was like, oh, if it's not metal, it's shit. Yeah. And it's weird because before I was sort of indoctrinated into that, I liked hip hop and I liked other stuff. And then in college, you're like forced to like, here's other stuff. And I came out of there 4 years wide open to everything. Yeah. So now I've got some Mongolian bloody throat singing next door on CD.
Nice.
Which I didn't. I try to collect stuff from Real World Records. Okay. And they're all that's Peter Gabriel's label, and they've all got there's artists from Africa or like I said, Mongolia. Yeah. And nice. One night I was like, I've got this iPod as well that I've like modded. I've put like an SD card in it. I've got like 500 gigabytes in this iPod. It's amazing. And that's what I listen to when I'm like trying to get to sleep. And I put this album on. I was like, oh, I bought this for £1 on eBay because it's Real World. I just give it a go, and it was throat singing, and I had to turn it off. I was like, I can't, because it was like proper like, yeah. It was like really, yeah. Oh my God, but it sounded amazing.
Buckley used to do that sort of thing, like not necessarily on his albums, but yeah, Jeff, he had that physical elasticity that he could do the throat singy stuff.
Right.
Yeah, I love all that. People that it really treats the throat as a machine. Like people like Björk, like it's a different instrument when she uses it.
Yeah.
Like those shouts aren't metal shouts. They're just like a sort of squawk, like a beautiful squawk.
Yeah. Weird fact, it's a small world. Well, I guess I don't know if it's small. Our singer in Sick Ones just had a job interview to be Paloma's PA, I think.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. I love a good time.
But I don't think she got the job. But I think Paloma's going to be checking out some Sick Ones because apparently she loves a bit of hardcore or something.
She's banging to all of it. She used to do such bizarre, like, her live performances were more performance art, alternative psychedelic stuff. And then I think, like she said once, like a label guy just showed up to see her perform in a Torture Garden, and she had all this like fake skin and like was pulling it all off. And they were like, maybe just tone it down a little bit if you want to be a pop star. And obviously she does that basically now what she does. But yeah, I imagine there was an era there where she was doing some very punky stuff. She's got a very sophisticated musical palette that I would never be able to comprehend for sure.
Right, that's amazing. And so, what was the moment when you went, all right, okay, now it's time. I've done music, because I think it's that 10-year thing with music where I think you put a solid 10 years into potentially being broke and putting off life things. Like I've put off life things to try and do music. Like I've got no savings, I got no kids, I didn't get married. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, I've just always been chasing the thing, and I believe that to do that, you actually have to, you have to sacrifice something.
Got to stick to something for sure. Yeah. I think that stuff's overrated. Unless you want it, then it's great.
Yeah, and if you want that, then that's great. But Dave Grohl said something very interesting. He said every band gets to the year 7, and that's when they almost call it a day. There's something about year 7 where they go, you know what? Are we into this anymore?
Maybe it's just that thing of that is the metric. What's it called? Yeah, the metric is 10s, isn't it? Metric system, and so there's something about the metric of a 7 that means you can't be closer to you're still closer to halfway than you are to the end. And if you go to 8, then you are officially closer to the end of that 10 years. So the psychology of 7. That's a great name for a progressive album. Psychology of 7.
So you went, all right, I'm changing.
I brought out that single, and I was so in the bubble of post-reality TV that it was like it had to get to top 40 just because the investment that we'd made. Otherwise, it was a failure. And it got to it got to 114, which is one more than David Brent's single gets to in The Office. Do you ever see The Office? And that hit me really hard.
Right.
But it's not. I think it's a funny story, but it doesn't sound funny. I got dropped from my label the day after they found out it wasn't going to work, which is a horrible thing to happen. Yeah. And I just walked in front of a car. I was walking home, and I was like, "That's it now. I didn't get to top 40, so I'm just going to walk in front of this car." And it didn't even feel like it would have hurt. It was just like I've failed, so I'm out of the race. Boom. Nothing happens because it was really far away. So I thought it was going to hit me, and it just ground to this halt. It didn't even beep. And I was like, this is the universe now making me into a joke. And I think it's really funny. And I want to do that. I want to tell jokes. I was like, this is so stupidly tragic that it instantly became funny. That was like, if I'm going to be a joke, I want to be in on that joke. And that's it. And I can't look back. And it's been so good, man. It's like, I loved music, never speak ill of music, but comedy's my, I do that better than.
And how did you begin to craft a stand-up routine? Because that's the thing, isn't it? It's this is why I love it so much. So I've got loads of respect for Childish Gambino, because he does it all. Yeah. And he's a stand-up. And Jamie Foxx, he's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, those guys. I'd be quite happy for them to be in charge of everything.
And the craft of it. That's something I've always in my head thought I could do stand up, but it is about having the balls, isn't it? And I think maybe one day I'll give it a go. But I've got notes on my phone, but when you come back to them like a year later, you're like, no, that's not funny, and no one needs to know this.
There's a thing about jokes where sometimes you think they're funny and then you realise it is just a sentence. There's nothing. Yeah. There's no joke, but if it's true to you, then it gets funnier the more confident you are about it. Right, some things just aren't funny, except that you brought them up. There's a guy I saw the other day, it was so hilarious, and he came on, he was like, Jesus was a lot shorter than I thought he was. And it's like, but he really was angry about it. And I could come up and say that, and you're like, all right, what's the punchline? I'm like, it turns out Jesus was a lot shorter than you think he is. Like, right, go on. That's not funny. But the fact that he brought it up and he cared made it funny. So if you think it's funny to you, carry on it. I swear, man, just go for it and somebody will laugh.
Yeah, I'm not sure what my style would be. There's been a lot of there's a lot of things.
Don't worry about your style in advance. Just do it, and your style will come. Same as the music, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so. So, who were your big influences when you were doing this? Who were the ones where you? What was your Mount Rushmore where you were like? So, mine would be something like Bill Hicks, George Carlin. I can't remember now. After that, I'm not sure. Chappelle is great, but he's like the GOAT, isn't he?
Chappelle is he's a master craftsman for sure. Yeah. I love Chappelle especially because, and I was banging to Louis C.K. and then I was not allowed to like Louis C.K. anymore, and then now it's sort of all right to like Louis C.K. again. But starting with separating the artists from their art is really important with comedy, especially because you think of them as the same person. You know, their life experiences inform their art. Anyway, I love Chappelle the most because he did some transgender stuff that was a little bit off the mark. And then he came back and he did some stuff that was much better. And a well-crafted transgender joke to me is wonderful because we're not supposed to enjoy it. People say, no, you can't talk about that. Laughter is self-policing. If Dave Chappelle can make you laugh about it, that's it. You can't argue with it. And he did some really good stuff about it. So did Louis. Ricky Gervais was huge to me, and he kind of didn't quite hit the mark for that. Ricky Gervais, Russell Brand. I liked Joe Rogan for a bit, not as much anymore, but Louis C.K., Maria Bamford, not as much of a comedian, but Kate McKinnon off SNL. She was the geeky one in the latest Ghostbusters movie. You saw that? She's not really a stand-up, but she's a comedy actress that might as well be a stand-up. She's that good. Right. Yeah.
Some of the best stand-up I've seen recently has actually been female stand-ups. Really knocking out the park at the moment. Maybe more so than ever.
Yeah. Women took over SNL for like at least the last 7 years. They've been in charge of that show, like not just administratively, but you can just see it on screen.
Yeah.
Like Kristen Wiig and that lot. But yeah, female stand-ups smashing it at the moment, and female screenwriting like Tina Fey, 30 Rock, like. Oh
yeah, she's a powerhouse.
She's incredible. Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Obviously smashing it with she's for Fleabag, and she's now writing the latest James Bond film. Like, yeah, it's a ladies' time. I got as to say, I got out while the getting was good. I've jumped onto feminism just as it's getting good again.
I tell you what, I've been really enjoying about these female comedians as well is that you get as a man. And in this socio-political climate at the moment of 2020, everything is up for discussion. Everything is wide open to be criticised and picked apart and everything. I find as a man, you can learn so much about yourself or your brethren, let's say, by female comedians and their experiences and the way they translate their real life experiences into something humorous. I feel that is such an effective way of bringing men round to ideas that they might shove off as being feminist or feminazi or something like that. And then you hear, and they make you laugh with it. And then you go, actually, no, that, I am so lucky. I can just walk home from the pub or whatever at 2 a.m. I'm blessed. I know I've got a privilege because I'm massive and not, and that sort, I never really feel in danger. But, it's interesting how female comedians can shine a light on the female experience and it be very palatable and accepted by men through humour.
Yeah. Remember, like we were saying towards the beginning, that thing of I love being on the front line and being able to make somebody laugh to the point where they will change not their political ideals. I think that's too ingrained for most people, but yeah, they just relax about certain things. And the brain can't take in new information when it's tense. It's the same process as when you are confronted by a threat in nature, like a tiger comes up to you, your instinct kicks in and you can't learn something new. You can't stop and interact with that tiger in any other way than running away. And it's, same with ideas. When an idea challenges your beliefs, your brain constricts just like it would in front of a tiger. And you're like, no, I need to know what I know. I need to keep thinking what I'm thinking. Laughter instantly relaxes the whole like circulatory system, the whole, can't remember the name for the nervous system. Oh, it's the nervous system. It relaxes the nervous system, and you can take in new ideas. So women comedians and any BAME comedians, that stuff is powerful. It sneaks up on you.
And how do you know when you've got an idea that's going to sit on your notepad or in your notes on your phone or a voice memo or however you do it? How do you know when that you're like, this is one that's going to get worked on? How do you develop an idea?
Yeah, if it makes you laugh, if it creeps into your head and makes you laugh, then there's something to it. The opposite side of that is you work it intellectually because you're forced to. You're like, oh, I need some stuff about ducks or whatever. And you're like, what's funny about a duck? And the way you figure out what's funny about a duck is you take duck, you put that in one column, and then I don't know, ducks walk funny, right? Duck walking, and you write down everything you know about walking and everything you know about ducks. And when you see some crossover, those are where the jokes form. That is the stupidest example. Please don't anyone that's listening to this think that that's what I do with my that's my set. But like that, it's that's the intellectual side of things, and something might cause you to chuckle, but that's more of a that works. That really works. Yeah, people are going to get that, and they will laugh. It's just a natural mechanism. You take one thing and you flip it, and that makes people laugh. But for me, if it makes me laugh, then it's worth pursuing. Even like 3 years later, you're reading, you're like, that wasn't funny. If it made you laugh at the time, maybe analyze what it was about your life at the time that made you laugh at that thing, because then you might remember why it was funny.
Yeah. Have you seen the How Are You with Jerry Seinfeld?
Oh, I love Jerry. He's
like a scientist, isn't he?
Yeah. He's the slickest machine of a comedian, and he is the archetype. Like, if you draw a cartoon comedian, it looks like Jerry Seinfeld. It's
That's
like
right.
He's turned it into it's psychopathically like high quality craftsmanship.
Yeah.
And his thing is very simple. He just says, because things genuinely annoy me. And a lot of people say the best comedy just comes from comes from irritability.
Yeah.
It's not true of everybody, because you got comedians that they're just happy and joyful the whole time, and they love everything, and that's why they're funny. Ross Noble is just, everything's a bit wacky and weird. Russell Brand as well. But just pointing out what annoys you. Stuart Lee is of that school. Things just annoy him.
Stuart Lee is great.
Yeah.
I feel like I had to sort of mature and age to fully appreciate Stuart Lee, actually. It's only recently I've started watching him and I've gone, no, I know where you're going with this now. I kind of get you now. But there's the Great Jerry thing where he says he uses a yellow paper pad, and a pen, always yellow lined paper. And he says that he just sits there with an item and he goes, there's something funny about this, and I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And his best one was fucking Pop-Tarts, right? He said he sat there for 2 years. Obviously, he had, obviously did things between that. But like, he worked on this Pop-Tart joke for 2 years, right? And he got to the end and he said, and they never go off. Oh, no, I can't remember what the line is now. So they say something like, and they can never go off because they were never fresh. And that's it. That's it. He took 2 years to get that fucking line, and then it's crazy. He's obsessed.
It almost makes you think, I wonder if the joke exists independently of human understanding, and it's just you find it rather than crafting it. It makes you think, do these memes exist, like mimetic ideas just exist in the ether? Again, I don't mean in a spiritual way. He's just
the bloody conduit for it.
Yeah, and it just takes that long to hone in on signal.
So you got the Comedy Central show gig?
That was nice. Yeah, Transaction. There's 6 short episodes, and we just won the Broadcast Digital Award for Best Short Form, which is like a BAFTA if you round it up. It's the biggest thing we could have won in the whole country. Like, we're really chuffed. And it is me playing a transgender, very much typecast transgender supermarket employee who is living off of the affirmative action hire like vibe. She knows that she's been told that she's special because of that, but doesn't have the self-awareness to realise that that's why she's been told she's special. So she thinks she's amazing and makes it everyone else's problem. I love it. It's it was joy. I got to play. It's a show for everyone. It doesn't exist in an echo chamber, nor is it very broad. It's not offensive deliberately for any reason. It's like it's a show that I hope it connects people. I've had people on both sides of the political spectrum saying, didn't think I'd like this, but it's all right. I'll take that.
Yeah, nice. And how do you sort of because again, comedic acting again is another discipline all in itself. And I feel like you probably took to that like here comes a duck, duck in water. But like...
I believed you. I wasn't sure where you're going, and I thought you just looked to the side, and he was like, "Oh, here comes a bloody duck," like in Joey and Chandler from Friends.
Yeah.
It's what's lovely about TV, of course, is that it's not the stage, so things are cut into tiny little bits. So it becomes repetitive. If you bore very easily, then it's you have to do the same thing over and over. But it's a safety net because you're just capturing moment to moment. Comedy acting, the nuance very different. You're not broad out on a big stage to a whole crowd of people. The camera's like right there, so you can have to sell a joke with a twitch of the eyelids or something.
Yeah, I
was in good company, man. Thomas Gray, who plays opposite me, he plays a character called Tom, which is just a coincidence, and his second name is Gray, which is also just a coincidence. He was the guy. You might have seen the video because it went super viral like 10 years ago. Lads Night Out in London. Do you ever see that video of the guy who returns home and it's like, don't leave me out? That guy. Remember him?
If I saw it, I'd probably remember it.
You might, He, I don't know if he hates that I keep bringing this up because he's gone on to do like much more stuff, but he's so recognisable as that guy. I couldn't tell for the first little while if he was real or not, which is a great comedy actor. He's just lovely, and I like, same as we were saying about competition, he's so good. It's nice to have somebody to try and like live up to, because I wrote it, so it's like, well, I've got to do well now, otherwise it's embarrassing. He made me up my game.
And imagine that's sort of like how it goes. If you're in a scene with De Niro, or Pacino, I wonder if there's that sort of like how deep you have to dig.
I can only do it if I believe it myself. So if I'm asking somebody a question, I have to ask them like I'm expecting an answer. Like if that's the scene, I have to ask them like that person is going to give me the answer, even if that's not the next line. So with someone like Pacino, I feel like I should just try and fuck this guy up. Like I should try and confuse him, because that shows that I want him to know that I care about this enough to be real, to know. I don't deserve that opportunity, but I'm sure I'll get it at some point just for being transgender. I seem to get given everything I want. That's it.
That's the joy. That's the advert right there.
Yeah, I recommend it.
If you're thinking about becoming transgender, that's the way to go.
You'll be able to act with Pacino. You, Andy, I recommend it for most people. You especially would be able to set records very, very quickly as the tallest woman in the world. That's so you've got that if you ever wanted to. I also want to point out, and I'm sure most people realise, so it's probably not even worth pointing out, we are being deliberately flippant for the sake of comedy. It's really hard work. Changing your gender. You probably shouldn't just do it on a whim, but it's funny to think about you as the tallest woman at least in Frome, surely. In
Frome?
Frome, sorry.
Frome. Have you ever been to Frome?
No, I've been through Frome.
Right, that's all right. You've been then.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, cool. Right, I mean...
Thanks very much. You've offended my hometown. See ya.
Next time you're here, I get the chains on. I'll come out with a town crier. Jordan Gray is here.
Do you have a drum in the chains?
I haven't yet. No, because of COVID, there's been no like real official shit to do. So I've very rarely donned the chains, which is annoying.
In a time of a pandemic, you'd think the town crier vibe would be like really up there.
Oh, I'm not the town crier. Hell no.
Oh no, but you're still allowed the bell, right?
No. I just got the chains. I wouldn't use the bell.
No,
I'm too cool for that. But,
you're more the Jacob Marley vibes. You've got the jangling as everywhere you go.
Yeah. Right. We should probably wrap this up, because I've taken an hour and 20 minutes of your time.
It's been a right laugh, man. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you very much for coming on and agreeing to talk to me. It's been really good. Is there anything else you would like to mention or plug before I say goodbye?
Well, it's obviously lovely if people want to check out the old transaction across Comedy Central UK's social media, and that's Facebook, Instagram TV, and YouTube. Myself can be found anywhere at Tall Dark Friend. Again, I don't know what that means, but that's my social media. And I mean, Froome. Check out Froome, guys. Like, it's where it's at. It sounds like I'm being rude. Like, I'm joking. I mean it. Go check out Froome. Right. The mayor. You'll see him from wherever you are. And the music of Sick Ones, I think, is worth checking out.
Yes, thank you very much. I would love to. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of The Giant Pod with me, Andy Wrintmore. That was my guest, Jordan Gray. If you want to keep up with what they're up to, we will leave a plethora of links in the show note descriptions. So please go and follow them on Twitter and Instagram. Check out the Comedy Central show. Go and listen to some of their music. Get invested. Follow the journey. It's bloody great. What else is there to say? Oh, leave us a review, like, subscribe. And if you liked this, please just tell one friend. Just copy the link, chuck it to a friend, say, I think you like this one. That one really helps us out. If you want to follow us on social media, you can. The handle for Twitter and Instagram is @TheGiantPod. If you want to follow me personally on Instagram, it is Andy_S1S. This podcast was produced by the omnipresent Harry Williams. Thanks so much for listening again. We will be back next week on The Giant Pod. Thanks.